Politeness is a beautiful lie. It looks like kindness. It sounds like virtue. But in the wrong hand or in the wrong moment, it becomes a weapon. Not against them, against you. Machiavelli saw that centuries ago. He didn't despise manners. He despised misplaced manners. Because there are moments when being polite doesn't just make you look weak. It makes you a target. Here's what blind politeness really communicates. I care more about being liked than being respected. I care more about keeping things comfortable than keeping them correct. I'd rather avoid tension than own the moment. And when predators, manipulators, opportunists, or power seekers pick up on that signal, they don't feel grateful. They feel invited. So let's make this practical. Machiavelli would tell you there are times you must set courtesy down like a mask. You don't have to become rude or cruel. You shift your posture. Your thank you becomes quiet. Your sorry becomes, that's your problem. Your handshake becomes a refusal, not because you're heartless, but because you're awake. What follows are 5 situations where politeness is a liability. Today, we're going to rewire your reflexes, starting with the most common trap. Situation 1. Someone crosses a boundary you never gave them permission to test. There are people who don't ask for power, they probe for it. They inch forward, not with a punch, but with a fingertip. A joke that lands just a bit too low. A step in a little too close. Talking over you, then staring like you interrupted them. This isn't random. It's measurement. They're scanning you for softness. What do most people do? They smile. They laugh nervously. They smooth the mood. No worries, it's fine. Ha ha ha, I'm probably just being sensitive. This is the turning point. Because in that moment, they learn something about you they won't forget. You prefer comfort to clarity. You'd rather be liked than be respected. If that's who you are, they'll be back. Not as a friend, but as a handler. Flip the script. You don't need to escalate or deliver a speech. Keep it cold and unmistakable. Look them in the eye. Don't do that again. Or, I didn't give you permission. If words feel unnecessary, use silence. Stop the energy. Let the room feel the pause. Then turn your attention elsewhere or walk away. That silence will ring louder than any lecture. It says, without apology, I'm not the one. Here's why this works. People who test boundaries bank on your politeness to carry them through the awkwardness. They rely on your social conditioning, your urge to keep the peace, to do all the labor for them. When you remove that cushion, they're exposed. Your stillness makes them own their move, and it teaches everyone watching something important about you. The atmosphere isn't more important than your authority. Now, a quick note on delivery. Cold does not mean cruel. You don't need volume. You don't need a scowl. Your tone should be flat, your gaze steady, your words minimal. Precision beats passion. Think surgeon, not brawler. The social echo effect. When you correct a boundary test with calm, the room recalibrates. People register that you don't trade your self-respect for harmony. You didn't shame anyone. You didn't put on a performance. You enforced reality. And that enforcement has ripple effects. The chronic interrupter hesitates. The just joking guy chooses a different target. The pushy colleague remembers there are costs. But what if you froze in the moment? It happens. If you miss your window, reset the frame afterward. You can follow up with, hey, don't do that again, delivered once without explanation, then move on. Or adjust your availability. Less warmth, tighter language, slower responses. Consequence doesn't have to be loud to be loud. The inner reframe. A lot of us were trained since childhood to keep things nice. Smile, nod, be agreeable. Machiavelli would burn that reflex to the ground. Not because kindness is wrong, but because automatic politeness is self-betrayal. True politeness is a choice. If you can't turn it off, it isn't a virtue, it's a leash. So ask yourself in real time, am I being polite because I mean it, or because I'm afraid of what happens if I'm not? If it's fear, drop it. If it's instinct, keep it. If it's habit, break it. Micro scripts you can use today. Pause. Don't do that again. I didn't agree to that. We're not doing that. Silence. Then a subject change. Keep these short. One line, then stop. Over-explaining is a refund of your power. Your new baseline. From now on, when a boundary is tested, your body should know the sequence. Stillness, eye contact, one sentence, disengage, no nervous smile, no apology cushion, no, I know you didn't mean it. You teach people how to approach you by how you handle the first violation. If you make it painless for them, they'll practice on you. If you make it costly, they'll learn quickly, and so will everyone else. Situation 2. When someone apologizes just to manipulate you. Not all apologies are genuine. Some are rehearsed performances designed to reset the game. They betray you, disrespect you, or cross a line. And before you can even process what happened, they rush to say, sorry. But listen closely. The tone is light. The timing is fast. There's no depth, no ownership. What they really want is not forgiveness. They want access. They want to soothe your anger before it teaches them a lesson. And because you were raised to be polite, you feel that pressure rise in your chest. You don't want to seem bitter. You don't want to drag things out. So you say it. It's okay. Or, I understand. Or worse, I forgive you. But let's be honest. What you're really saying is, you can get away with it. You can press reset any time just by pretending to care. Machiavelli would have burned that instinct to ash. He understood something people still struggle with today. You don't owe anyone comfort just because they said sorry. You don't have to make it easier for the person who made it harder for you. A manipulative apology is a leash disguised as closure. So what do you do instead? You let the apology land and go nowhere. No warmth, no immediate response, no reassurance. You can say, I heard you, or thanks for saying that, and then you stop. Don't say, it's fine. Don't say, we're good. Just stop talking. Let the silence work. That isn't coldness. That's sovereignty. The manipulator's greatest fear is someone they can't soothe back into submission. They'll try again, usually by acting hurt. Wow, you're still mad? I said I was sorry. Don't take the bait. You're not being dramatic, you're being disciplined. Because your forgiveness should mean something. If it's given too freely, it loses all power. Here's the rule. Apologies don't earn forgiveness. Behavior does. And this is where most people lose the game. They confuse closure with kindness. But Machiavelli would remind you, real closure doesn't come from forgiving quickly. It comes from refusing to let guilt manipulate your boundaries. The energy dynamic. Think of manipulation as an energy exchange. They do something that drains you: betrayal, disrespect, a lie. Then, when you finally pull back, they toss you a fake apology, hoping you'll return that energy with warmth. When you don't, when you let their words hit the floor, something powerful happens. The energy doesn't recycle. It ends. You cut the circuit. And that silence is where your strength lives. Let's go deeper. A sincere apology comes with accountability. It acknowledges the impact, not just the act. It doesn't demand forgiveness. It offers space for you to decide. But a manipulative apology is impatient. It hurries. It pushes. It sounds like, "Can we just move on? I already said sorry. Why are you still upset?" That's not remorse, that's management. Machiavelli would call this emotional warfare disguised as humility. He'd tell you, the weak apologize to escape consequence. The wise apologize to rebuild trust. The difference is night and day, and your job isn't to punish, it's to protect the line, what to say instead. Try this. Instead of default politeness, "I appreciate the apology. It doesn't change how I see the situation. I heard you. Then nothing. That's noted." Or simply, silence. Every manipulator hates silence. They thrive on emotional reassurance. The moment you stop feeding it, they wither. Silence turns their script into a mirror, and they can't stand what they see. The psychology of withholding comfort. You've probably noticed this. When you stop being polite, people accuse you of being cold, rude, or unforgiving. That's because they were benefiting from your politeness. It wasn't about morality. It was about control. Your ability to stay neutral, to withhold emotional validation, threatens their influence. They can't use guilt or sympathy to steer you anymore. Machiavelli would have smiled at this moment. To him, control isn't about domination. It's about selective access. When you decide who gets your warmth, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. People can't manipulate what they can't read. Here's what to remember. You're not rejecting humanity, you're rejecting programming. The world taught you that nice equals good. It doesn't. Niceness without discernment is just obedience in disguise. So, from now on, reframe forgiveness. It's not a reflex, it's a reward. It's not a reaction to guilt, it's a response to real change. Until then, your silence is sacred. Now, let's move to the next kind of politeness that kills power, not in confrontation, but in conversation. The kind that keeps you trapped in someone else's story. Situation 3. When dealing with a chronic victim, you've met this person. Every story they tell makes them both the hero and the victim. Everyone around them is cruel, unfair, or jealous. They're always left out, always disrespected, always just trying to do the right thing. And when you talk to them, they don't want truth. They want validation. They feed off your sympathy like oxygen. You, trying to be polite, nod. You listen. You agree. That's awful. You don't deserve that. You think you're helping, but you're not. You're becoming an emotional servant. You're giving energy to someone who thrives on pity. Machiavelli would see this instantly for what it is, emotional parasitism. He would detach, break the loop, turn the mirror back on them. He'd say, "You always seem to end up in these situations. Do you ever take responsibility for your part?" Or he'd say nothing and change the subject entirely. Because silence, once again, is power. Situation 3. When you're dealing with a chronic victim, you know exactly the type. Every story they tell ends the same way. They're the wounded hero, and the world is the villain. Every boss is unfair. Every friend betrays them. Every relationship ends with them being used. And at first, you might even feel sorry for them. You listen, you nod, you say, "That's awful." You want to help, you want to be supportive. But soon, something strange happens. You start leaving those conversations emotionally drained. You feel heavy, tired, responsible somehow. That's not compassion. That's feeding. These people don't want truth or clarity. They want validation. They want your attention, your energy, your sympathy. They want you to confirm their story, that they're always right, always good, always wronged. And because you were trained to be polite, you keep giving it to them. You say, I understand. You say, that's so unfair. You think you're being kind, but what you're actually doing is volunteering to be their emotional fuel. Machiavelli would have seen this dynamic immediately. He'd call it emotional parasitism, a relationship where one person thrives on the energy the other person loses. And he would tell you, the parasite does not seek healing. It seeks feeding. He wouldn't argue. He wouldn't try to fix them. He would break the loop with cold precision. He'd say something like, you seem to end up in the same kind of situation often. Have you noticed that? Or he'd say nothing at all and change the subject completely. Because here's the truth. Chronic victims can't feed on silence. They can't manipulate someone who refuses to play the rescuer. They can't repeat their narrative when no one validates it. You break the trance by refusing to nod. The emotional economics of politeness. Every conversation has an economy energy flowing in, energy flowing out. When you're polite to a manipulative victim, you're making an unconscious trade. Your peace for their pity. They leave feeling lighter. You leave feeling empty. And the worst part? They'll come back for another withdrawal. Machiavelli's move? Detachment. He'd stay calm, detached, measured. He wouldn't apologize for pulling back. He wouldn't explain himself. Because the moment you start explaining why you're tired of their drama, they win. They shift the story again. Now you become the villain. That's the hidden trick. Chronic victims are masters at flipping blame. If you confront them, they'll cry. If you stay silent, they'll gossip. But the one thing they can't do is feed when you're cold. How to detach without guilt. Here's how you handle them like a strategist. 1. Stop emotionally reacting. Don't mirror their tone. Keep your responses neutral and brief. That sounds difficult. I see. I hope it works out. 2. Don't offer solutions. They're not looking for help. They're looking for endless empathy. Every solution you offer will be rejected because they need the problem to survive. 3. Set a time limit. If they start spiraling, end it. I've got to get back to something. Simple, clean, no excuses. 4. Redirect or disengage. Change the topic or politely step away. Silence is not rude, it's protection. Machiavelli believed pity is the most dangerous emotion to waste. Why? Because it looks noble while quietly destroying your boundaries. He'd remind you, the one who always pities will always serve. And he'd never let himself serve anyone's emotional chaos. So from now on, remember this. Kindness should have a cost. If someone's draining you over and over, your politeness is feeding the disease. When you reclaim your silence, you reclaim your authority. These are the first 3 moments where politeness, if left unchecked, doesn't serve you, it exposes you. It opens doors that should have stayed locked. It tells the world that you'll let people in, even when they don't deserve entry. But Machiavelli's way was never about cruelty, it was about control. He knew when to remove politeness from a moment. It wasn't rebellion. It was correction. Like cutting oxygen from a flame, his silence killed the chaos. The manipulator stops. The fake apologies fade. The emotional parasites starve. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He didn't play hero. He just chose presence over performance. Some people say politeness is always the higher road. Machiavelli would laugh at that. He knew politeness, when used unconsciously, is not strength. It's submission dressed as virtue, and it's most dangerous when it's automatic, when you smile not from peace, but from fear of showing your fire. Because politeness, when it becomes reflex, turns into self-betrayal. It's the most socially accepted way to lose control of your life and be applauded for it. Now, let's move to the next battlefield. Because politeness isn't just used against you in emotional games, it's used to control your time. And if someone can waste your time, they can waste your life. Situation 4. When your time is being wasted deliberately. There are two kinds of time wasters, the clueless and the calculated. The clueless ones lose track of time, forget things, or genuinely can't manage priorities. You can forgive that. But the calculated ones, the ones who delay answers, drag conversations, call endless meetings with no purpose, or circle back endlessly, they're not disorganized. They're testing your tolerance. They want to see how long you'll wait, how far you'll stretch, how polite you'll stay while they casually dismantle your schedule. And every time you say, "No problem," "Take your time, it's fine," you fail the test. You've just told them your time is flexible, your boundaries are negotiable, your presence is free. To Machiavelli, that was one of the highest forms of weakness, because once your time becomes negotiable, so does your power. Situation 4. When someone wastes your time deliberately. There's a difference between people who are simply disorganized and those who use delay as a form of control. The first type you can forgive. They're careless. But the second type, the ones who drag things out, postpone decisions, and keep you waiting just long enough to prove they can. That's not forgetfulness. That's psychological chess. These people understand something most don't. Time is the most valuable currency of power. And if they can make you spend it on their schedule, they control the rhythm of your life. "Can we reschedule? Give me a few more days," or "Let's circle back next week," isn't just bad organization, it's a test. They're watching how you react. Do you reassure them? "No worries. Take your time. It's fine." If so, they've learned something dangerous about you. Your politeness overrides your priorities. To Machiavelli, this was a cardinal sin. He believed time is not just a resource, it's the battlefield itself. And once you start negotiating for it, you've already lost ground. How Machiavelli would handle it. He wouldn't send a polite follow-up. He wouldn't chase. He wouldn't check in. He'd interrupt. He'd cut short. He'd leave. Not out of arrogance, but out of principle. Because the moment someone senses that your time is flexible, your authority evaporates. So, what should you do? The next time someone deliberately wastes your time, stop smiling. Stop excusing them. Drop the niceties. Say, "Let me know when you're ready to move forward." Or, "This doesn't seem like a priority to you. Let's revisit when it is." That one sentence will do more than 10 polite reminders, because now you've flipped the scarcity dynamic. They realize you're not chasing, you're choosing. And the moment people sense they can lose access to your time, they start respecting it. Time is territory. Machiavelli viewed time as territory, the ground upon which all power games are fought. Every minute someone drags you into meaningless talk, keeps you waiting for an answer, or makes you repeat yourself, they're colonizing that territory. They're expanding their influence while shrinking yours. And you, trying to be polite, think you're being patient. But in their mind, you've become predictable. Predictability is the enemy of power, because power thrives on scarcity, and scarcity only exists when access is limited. So the next time someone says, "Sorry, I've just been really busy," you don't smile and say, "No problem." You respond with, "I understand. Let's connect when it's a priority." Simple, direct, cold. That sentence pulls your time and your dignity back into your hands. The politeness trap. Politeness makes you easy to stall. It makes you the person who always waits, always accommodates, always bends. And polite people attract the worst kind of manipulators, the ones who measure respect in minutes. Machiavelli's strategy was surgical. Never chase those who delay. When someone drags their feet, they're showing you what you mean to them. Believe it. You don't need confrontation. You need absence. Walk away from delayed replies, pointless meetings, vague promises, and "we should catch up" energy. Your silence will sting louder than any polite message ever could. Here's a principle worth engraving into your mind. The person who values their time the most always ends up in control. So from now on, you protect your time like a fortress. No one gets in without purpose. No one stays without value. If someone's stalling, that's not confusion, that's communication. Believe it the first time. And that brings us to the final, most subtle form of power manipulation, one that hides behind silence, smirks, and tone. Not direct attacks, but implied dominance. Situation 5. When someone tries to intimidate you with passive power. This one is tricky. You're not being yelled at. You're not being insulted. But you feel it, the undercurrent. The condescension in their voice. The pause before they respond. The slow way they say your name. Like they're savoring control. They never raise their voice because they don't need to. Their power is implied. And the more polite you are, the stronger they feel it. Because your politeness tells them, you win. I'll play along as long as you don't make it obvious. This is what Machiavelli called silent warfare. The kind of dominance that doesn't need shouting, only your submission. Here's how he'd handle it. He'd remove the emotional bait. He wouldn't match tone or sarcasm. He wouldn't overreact. He'd strip the performance of its reward. They speak with veiled arrogance, he interrupts. Let's stay focused. They drag pauses. He fills the silence with calm eye contact. They try to unsettle him with tone he speaks slowly, evenly, without a smile. That's the art of cold neutrality. Machiavelli knew that energy always flows toward the calmest presence in the room. And when you refuse to emotionally react, you take that power back. You don't have to match energy, you have to own it. Politeness in the face of disrespect is submission. But aggression is weakness too. The Machiavellian answer is balance, composed dominance. When you refuse to flinch, to laugh, to smooth tension, your silence becomes the loudest statement. You say nothing, but your energy says everything. I see you, and I'm not impressed. And when that happens, something subtle shifts. They lose interest. Because people who weaponize passive aggression thrive on reaction. When they can't shake your frame, they suffocate in their own silence, hold frame. Like a fortress. Your goal isn't to win arguments. It's to hold frame. Because every moment you stay unshaken, their influence dies. Your stillness says, I decide what affects me. That's real power. Control without confrontation. At this point, you've seen all 5 traps. The boundary test, the manipulative apology, the emotional parasite, the time thief, the passive intimidator. Each one feeds on the same thing, your politeness. The world trains you to be digestible, to be easy, to say no problem, even when there is one, to smile when you're disrespected, to apologize when you're simply existing. But Machiavelli would have spit on that leash not to be edgy, but to be free. Because the truth is this, politeness has its place. But only the dangerous know where that place is. So how do you turn all this into real power? Machiavelli would start here. Redefine politeness. Most people think it means not interrupting, always agreeing, smiling when uncomfortable, saying it's okay just to keep the peace. That isn't politeness. That's emotional obedience. True politeness is only powerful when it's a choice. If you can't turn it off, it's not kindness, it's submission. The first rule: learn the politeness to cold switch. You must be able to go from warm to unreadable in seconds. Someone wastes your time, you stop smiling. Someone crosses a line, your tone drops. No arguing, no explaining. Just stillness. The absence of warmth is the boundary. The silence after disrespect speaks louder than any polite response ever could. Second, eliminate unnecessary apologies. Polite people apologize for breathing. Sorry for asking. Sorry I was clear. Sorry for saying no. Machiavelli would rip that habit out by the root. Apologizing for boundaries tells people those boundaries are negotiable. Replace "sorry I can't" with "that won't work for me." Replace "sorry for the delay" with "here's the update." Replace "sorry" if that sounded harsh with silence. Strength doesn't explain itself, it stands still. Third, stop escaping tension. Politeness is often a shield people use to avoid discomfort. Someone gives a backhanded comment. You laugh it off. A colleague interrupts. You smile to keep peace. But Machiavelli would hold that moment. He'd look directly and say, "Don't do that again," or "You don't need to agree with me." He wouldn't fill the silence. He'd let it sting. Because when you stay still through discomfort, they feel it, not you. Finally, stop being a polite person. Be a dangerous person who chooses politeness. Let it be deliberate, calm, and unsettling. When you say thank you, it should matter because they know it could just as easily have been silence. Predictable politeness is weakness. Chosen politeness is control. Machiavelli's 5 laws of politeness. 1. It's earned, not given. Don't comfort those who violate your time or space. 2. Never use it to avoid conflict. If it costs self-respect, it's not peace, it's surrender. 3. Politeness isn't morality. You can be kind and cold. 4. Silence beats words. Let tension speak for you. 5. If they mistake your warmth for weakness, punish them with distance. In the end, you're not here to be liked. You're here to be felt. Every time you say it's okay when it isn't, you teach people how to treat you, and worse, you teach yourself that your power is optional. It's not. Be polite when it's earned. When it's not, be Machiavellian. Let silence speak. Let the coldness burn. Because true power isn't in how gently you speak. It's in how unpredictably you withdraw.